Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching. I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience as an American studying at a university here in Ireland. Don't worry, I'm fully aware I have the perfect face for radio. So don't worry, we're going to get into lots of pictures and videos of the campus. As absolutely cliche as it sounds, but if I can do it, anyone can do it. When I came here, I had only been not even a week here for a vacation one time with my mom as well. I didn't know a single soul. I didn't have any family out here, no connections whatsoever. I didn't see myself as any way brave or capable, but that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come out here. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something like this. So, of course, this is my own personal experience. Things could have changed as well since I was there. I did graduate 5 years ago. Not the most amount of time, but enough time for changes to have happened. And I will say I was 26 when I came over, so I was seen as what they call a mature student. And I had somewhat the advantage that I had studied in the States as well. I had actually already gotten an undergraduate degree studying something else in the States. But when I came here to University of Limerick, I studied psychology and sociology, and I never looked back.
I wanted to show a bit of the video of driving into the university just so you can get kind of an idea of the surrounding area, and as well, I'll take a quick drive around the city so you can get a feel for that as well. I don't remember the application process being very intense. As an international student and as well even a non-European student, there was an additional form that I had to fill out, but it was pretty straightforward. I think there were one or two additional forms. I sent over my resume and my educational background. I highly recommend that before you leave your hometown that you get some form of police clearance or something from your sheriff's office to show any criminal background or a clean history. If at any point you want the option of working, you will need that, and you do need to apply for it in person. So get it before you leave and just have it just in case. Of course, you'll do vetting on this side, but they will ask for that form if you're international. And of course, bring your medical records and any medications. Just be aware that sometimes medications are different on this end. So something that's more specific in the States, it might be under a different brand name or a slight variation. If you want to get a driver's license while you're here in Ireland, you are able to be insured on your American license for 1 year, and that's to give you time to go through the process of getting an Irish license in that time. So you'd still have to do the written exam, you would still have to do 6 lessons instead of 12, and of course the practical at the end. When I attended the University of Limerick, they set up our appointments for the immigration. They will let you know all the forms that you need to bring with you. Of course, you're going to need your passport. You need medical insurance. I use just a basic VHI, which is about $45 a month. I still use it. Proof of funds, a letter from the university, which they will provide, proof of address. And you do have to pay, again, when I was going, it was €300 for each year. When I attended UL, I did live on campus. It was called Drumroe Village. It was absolutely fantastic. We even had a pizza parlor, as you can see. There was a laundry there as well. I think it was €2 per wash and per dry. There used to be a spa here, but it looks like it might have been taken away. So I'm not sure. The sign's gone. It was closed, and this was midday that I was there walking around. Lots of buildings there, and there's lots of events that go on. I was in Oak House at the very end. There was 6 of us. We each had a private ensuite bedroom, which was great. Not a huge kitchen, but it did the job, and a small little sitting room as well. Tiny little balcony off the end too. Please excuse the state of the room. I had taken the picture to show the mess that is traveling back and forth. That's me packing up to go home, I think, for Christmas or something. But what I loved is that my bedroom looked out to the river out the back. So I used to sit in the window and study, and it was absolutely fantastic. There are a few different options as far as accommodation that the university provides. I would say mine was the closest to all the action. All I had to do was cross over to a small parking lot, and I was at the heart of the campus. It was a small bit on the pricier side. I think I was paying $650 a month, which as a student was a little bit more tricky to swing, but I did work my second and third year while at university to help with some of those costs. This is called the Living Bridge. They call it that because it's meant to kind of move a small bit as you're walking, but you might just get that little bit feeling lightheaded as you're walking along. But don't worry, that's kind of the effect I think it's supposed to have. And that's to connect one side of the campus across the river to the other side, where there's a few additional buildings as well as additional on-campus housing. So here's showing just a little bit of kind of the back side of the campus, and that's over the same river from a different bridge that you're able to drive across. And again, here are the buildings and some of those additional housing. So here is kind of the main hub of the campus. In the corner, you have the foundation building where a lot of events are put on. You have the library, and then over here you have the main building where a lot of offices are. But each one of these would also have classrooms, so you'd be attending a lot of your classes throughout the campus. Somewhat in the center of all of these buildings is this bronze sculpture. Oh my goodness, there are no words to describe how scary that is to walk by in the middle of the night if you're by yourself. If you were to walk in front of the library and up to the left, you'll find the Stables Club, which did apparently used to be a stables yard, so that's really fun. But this is a great place to meet up with friends, grab a coffee, breakfast, lunch. Then in the evenings, they turn it more into a bar and pub, and they would have a lot of events on as well. They'd have live music come in. They would have International Students Night. Just a lot of really fun things to do right on campus. Then around the back side, you would also find a few other things, including a shop that would have a lot of UL merchandise. There's a courtyard around the back as well, where there used to be a bank, and that as well seems to be gone. I'm not sure. But there would be the Students' Union, there would be a couple other little shops, as well as a Spar, so you can go get a few little groceries and a few little things that you might need. Then upstairs, you'd also find a Subway. There is a Starbucks where I did stop and get a pumpkin spice latte. So luckily, seasonally, they do have those here as well. I'll also take you on just a quick trip down these long corridors and around some of the inside of the buildings where the classrooms are, and show you my old department, which is the psychology department. Just to talk more on studying abroad, I did sign up for the International Student Club and Society when I first got there, and I highly recommend this. It's a great way to meet people. I made a great friend when I was in there. They took us all around. They would travel around Ireland. We would get together on a bus, and they would organize everything for us. So it's a fantastic way to get around and just to meet people when you first get there. When I first was accepted into UL, they sent me an offer to put me in touch with one of their ambassadors. And this was a fellow American who studied over there, and she was able to give me lots of tips and answer a lot of questions. As well, they set me up with one of the locals. So when I got there, one of the local students, he took me around. He was showing me around campus. Same thing, sat down, had a drink, had a chat, and answered loads of questions, gave me a lot of information. So there's a lot of resources that can be used that I highly recommend. Take advantage of everything they have. As I said, I did work while I was a student, and as an international student, I was capped at only being allowed to work 20 hours a week. And you will need to go get a PPS number, which is similar to a social security number. And this you get through going to mywelfare.ie. One of my favorite things about UL is the access to the incredible nature walks. It depended on where my classes were, but oftentimes I could get there by walking the trail along the river. And what's fun is that if you carry on for about a half a mile down this path, and there are castle ruins that you can just climb around in. I mean, another perk to attending an Irish university. I did come in as an undergraduate student, like I said before, which is meant to be a full 4-year degree. And what's great about universities here is that you do not take any general classes, but instead you spend your time focusing on your subject. There is something called an arts degree, and I hope I have this information correct, but you pick 4 subjects to study over 2 years and then focus in on 1 or 2 in your final time. They have what is called a leaving cert out of secondary school or high school, and it's very similar to the SAT as far as I know. And depending on how many points you get determines what you can study. And I've heard that the arts helps those who didn't get the points they wanted and kind of do it as a gateway into still getting their degree into what they were hoping to. But for me, the 4-year degree was meant to include Erasmus, which is basically study abroad, and work placement, which is basically the same as an internship. Because I was a mature student with work history already and basically already abroad, I was abroad, I applied for an exemption, and I had to officially meet in front of a board, very official people and some of my professors, and explain my case of why I wanted the exemption. And luckily I was granted this and able to graduate in 3 years instead of the 4. When you come here, you will also find that the scoring system is different than in the States. To get an A or higher in the States, you need 90% or above, whereas here it is only 70%. But before you get too excited, it actually is much more difficult to get points on exams here. Those high grades are still just as difficult to get. As well, the exams are a little more intense, I've found. You'll be taken into a hall and everyone is really far apart. You're only allowed your pencil and eraser. There's people walking around watching you. It just all felt very official and it was very intimidating, and it just feels more intense. You are allowed 1 blank sheet of paper after the time has already started. I would always ask for it right away, and before I even look at the exam in front of me, I would write down all the key things I wanted to remember before I looked down and my brain had a chance to panic and forget everything I knew. Something really cool that they do here that I really wish they did in the States is that if you fail a final exam, you can actually retake it after the summer. Now, you are capped at a C grade no matter what your actual score is, but certainly being able to pass the class with a lower grade versus having to retake it entirely is really fantastic. You'll hear all the older students talking about their FYP, which is their final year project. It's like a mini master's thesis, to be honest. It's where you work one-on-one with your professor or just a professor that's assigned to you, and together you come up with a topic. My topic was the role of individual differences and positivity for seeking negative information in relationships. Honestly, don't even ask me to summarize that. I haven't a clue. It was it's very specific. It's very intense. It was over 6,000 words long. You meet with your professor throughout the year, and as you conduct your research, every final year student is just stressed off their face because you still have your regular classes as well. But hey, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Now, I cannot talk about UL without talking about RAG Week, which is to stand for Raise and Give. It is meant to be a big charity week, which it is, but it's basically also turned into a huge drinking fest for the week. Money is still raised, of course, and classes are still going, but the students spend almost every evening going out drinking, either on campus and then going out into town. Basically, everyone's massively hungover and massively drunk for most of the week, but it's a pretty good time. Another fun thing that they would do are balls. Now, these are basically like prom, but they are for each department. So say it's the 2017 class for psychology, and everybody gets really dressed up. It's usually rented out in a hotel or some kind of venue. There'd be a big fancy dinner, drinks, a DJ would come in, everybody would be going until probably about 3 or 4 in the morning. But it's really fun to do with your class that you've gotten so bonded with. And then at the end of every year, there would be the big final ball for everyone who's graduated. And it's a great time to celebrate with everyone you've gotten to know over the years. The last difference that I'm going to touch on is that when you graduate, it actually isn't after all the classes are finished. So when I was in Utah State and after the end of the last semester, that's when you would have your graduation ceremony. And that's when your parents come out. That's when your family comes out. And there's the big ceremony. You get in your cap and gown and everything. But it was funny. They hand you over your little booklet that's supposed to someday house your degree. But inside is basically a letter saying, don't get excited. We don't know yet if you've passed your classes, if you've graduated. And you end up getting your degree just in the mail. But here in Ireland, you actually don't have your graduation ceremony until August. So it's not until after the summer's over, after they know for sure that you've passed all your classes, and that's when you have your ceremony. So it just makes it that little bit more special. You are walking on the stage, knowing that you've done it for sure, knowing that you've passed everything. And I think it does make that little bit of a difference. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope this is somewhat helpful. I hope I've possibly inspired some young person to go out there and do the same thing. I will just reiterate, if I can do it, anyone can do it. It can be done, and it is the most magical time of your life. So I encourage anybody who's thinking about it, if you're even on the fence, I hope this is somewhat more push you in the direction of studying abroad, doing something like this. I know for myself, I'm just so grateful that I did it. Just going to finish off with a little cruise through Limerick City.